Alright, so now we're getting into a new concept, and that is power. And power is basically just how quickly work gets done. And it's defined as power is work divided by time. And the typical units we'll use for power, and this is where it can get a little confusing with the letters, is if you know how many joules you do per second, that has units of what are called watts, or is equivalent to units of watts, which is a capital W. So don't get this W, watts, confused with this W, work. It's all about context, and I'll show you in a second. So in this case, what is the power? The power in this case is equal to 500 joules. It's done in 42 seconds, and so we just divide 500 by 42, and that will tell us our power, which comes out to 11.9 joules per second, or 11.9 watts. And because this W is with the number, we get the context is that this is talking about watts and not the symbol for work. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. So that's the power. So the key to this is if you want watts, you must be in units of joules and seconds. So you just got to be aware of that. Alright, so here's another problem where we're given the power. So power equals 200 watts, and we are told there's 10,000 joules of work. So work is 10,000 joules, and we're looking for time. So we can do this algebraically if we want. Again, we know P equals W over T. So we could plug in our numbers. 200 equals 10,000 over T. And it also doesn't hurt to think in terms of, get an estimate in your head. 200 watts is like saying 200 joules per second. So how many seconds will it take to do 10,000 joules of work? You should have some sort of number in your head right now of what would be a reasonable answer. But anyway, cross multiply 200 over 1, so you get 200t equals 10,000. And then we'll divide both sides by 200. And that will get us our answer that t equals 50 seconds. And so we should check this answer by taking this and plugging back into the original equation. So 10,000 divided by 50, does that equal 200? And if you just check that, it will. And so that means that you did it correctly. Another way you can do this, if you prefer, you could do this fence posting. If you know that 200 watts is the same as saying 200 joules per second, you can say 200 joules equals 1 second. You can say, I have 10,000 joules of work to do. Therefore, 200 joules cancels 1 second on top. And when we do this that way, you also get 50 seconds. So 2 different ways to go about that. Alright, here's the third problem, and this one's a little trickier because the units don't match up very well. First we have kilowatts, so if we want to right away, a kilowatt, it's just like a kilometer. A kilowatt is 1,000 watts. So if we want to, we can convert this to watts right away and say, okay, well that's like 3,000 watts. And in 1 hour, we just got to be careful, we're always using seconds when we deal with watts, so if we want, we can convert that 1 hour right away. So if you know that there are 60 minutes in an hour, and then there are 60 seconds in every minute, you'll get there 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. So we've got 3,000 watts, we've got 3,600 seconds, and we'll label those as time and power. And then we can plug into our power equation. 3,000 equals, we don't know the work, but we know the time is 3,600 seconds. Now we can solve for the work. So cross multiply, work times 1 is work. 3,000 times 3,600 is a large number. Let's see, 1080000. Oops, 10,800,000 joules. Or if we want, 10,800 kilojoules if we prefer to transfer that into those types of units. And we can plug this number back into the original equation and see if we got it right. So we could take that number divided by 3,600 and you should get 3,000 watts. So it's a good way to check. We can also do this fence posting if we really like. We start off, we have 1 hour is how long it's working for. And so we know that, okay, in 1 hour there are 60 minutes. In 1 minute there are 60 seconds. We know from the work that there are 3 kilowatts for every, or 3 kilojoules for every 1 second. That's the kilowatts. We know there's 1 kilojoule, there's 1,000 joules. And then you can plug in and do all this, and you will also get the same answer. This is the more, I guess, elegant way to do it, but either way would be sufficient. So that's it. So use whatever method you feel most comfortable with. Just make sure that you check your answer at the end, because that will save you a lot of mistakes. So until next time, I am Derek Genova. Have a delightful day.